I don't need a business plan because it's all in my head. That is absolutely not true, and I'm going to talk you through why that is. Hello and welcome to Engage and Thrive, also known as EAT, your coffee catch-up with me, your host Taelon, where we will go through common problems and hurdles that come up in business, marketing and advertising and try and demystify them. I know firsthand how complicated and confusing it can seem with all the different acronyms and all the things to do in business. So let me try and help you be better in business. First things first, let's start with grabbing a coffee. Okay, firstly, to explain to you why this statement is so incorrect. I can't even express how many different excuses I've heard. I've honestly heard every excuse in the book. Firstly, from we're not going in for investment, so we don't need a business plan, to we're too small, we don't need a business plan, to we're so established, we know what we're doing, we don't need a business plan. All of these, honestly, are just excuses because everyone does need a business plan. I'm going to have to put my coffee down for this. The business plan is basically the crux of everything that controls the different departments and deliverables and everything you're doing. So without actually having that plan and strategy in place, how do you expect anything to actually go to plan or be delivered or have the right execution of it? Especially if it's more than just you doing it as a business, everyone needs to make sure that they're aligned with what the business purpose and objectives and everything are. But we'll go into that further when we do takeaways. Next thing to cover off, as always, is acronyms. So acronyms that you're likely to hear when people talk about a business plan, whether they are actually creating one or asking you for one. So the first thing is a SWOT analysis. So the SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. And this is internal and external factors. Again, this is a whole nother episode when we can go into how you execute a SWOT analysis and how you use that information. The next one, which we've covered off previously, is ROI, return on investment. So again, you don't need to have investors to have return on investment. Everything that you're doing as a business, you need to understand, was it a worthwhile activity? Would we do it again? That's the return on investment. What did you get back from doing that? The next one is KPI, so key performance indicators. Now, this is something you would likely set as a business, and then each corresponding department that falls into your business, so whether it's a department or person, they would have then their own KPIs to reach and meet as part of the bigger business plan. The next one is CAGR, which is compound annual growth rate. This one always gets me tongue twisted. And again, this is a more complex one when we go into financial stuff, which again, we can cover off completely in a whole nother episode. The other one we've covered off lightly and probably will reoccur over and over again when we're doing all these different parts of business and marketing. And that is your USP, which is your unique selling point, and your UVP, which is your unique value proposition. Same, but different. Okay, now we've got acronyms out of the way. I'll get back to the coffee and our 5 key takeaways. I have to keep picking it up because I'm so worried that being expressive, I'm going to throw coffee into my face or into the camera. So the first one, and these are, instead of calling them 5 key takeaways, I'm going to say 5 impacts or areas or things that you should be including in your business plan, because you do need a business plan. So the first one is your overview, which people may also ask to do an executive summary. This is really your why, your what. Like, so what, tell me about your business. What's your overarching goal, mission, vision, your USP? Like, why do you exist? Why are you who you are, and who are you? You know, why is your business alive or trying to come to life? This is probably the one that people like to cover off at the end. So if you're doing a big business plan, you might work through a lot of the details and then come back and refine this. When it's in terms of an executive summary, this is absolutely the one that people tell you to do right at the end. But in terms of a business plan and business strategy for a business, this is one that definitely will set the scene for everyone, and everyone needs to understand to go into the detail. Okay. Number 2, market analysis. So market analysis, I also like to call state of the nation. And the reason for calling it that is because whether you're a new business or an existing business, it is so important to keep up to date with this information. So you may do an analysis now of where you are in the market, but then go, okay, we've done it. No, you need to keep doing it and keep reviewing it, because things evolve so much and so quickly, especially in the world of digital. So this will cover off things like, who are the competitors in the market, direct and indirect competitors, what's the geographical locations, linking it back to your target demographic. Who do they see as competition? What do they have currently as a product or service that they're receiving, that you want to create that space in between where they don't have what you're offering yet. You know, this is really understanding where you are. Are you a big fish or a little fish in a big ocean? You know, this is the whole analysis of the market. And this is also what you want to monitor going forward and understand for sentiment, competition, benchmarking, etc. Okay, number 3 is marketing and sales. So these go hand in hand. They're not the same. They are different, but they need to speak to each other and feed into each other as a continuous loop. And it's so easy to identify as a business if there isn't a business plan in place that these 2 departments are the first to crack, because they're obviously the ones that are attracting your customers. So either through marketing channels or execution of actually like delivering from a sales aspect. And if the business plan isn't in place, or if these 2 departments or people or whatever aren't linked together and working, that's kind of like the first hurdle. The thing, just to clarify, this is a marketing and sales strategy that you need to have in place for your business plan. And this is not necessarily your marketing and sales plan. So the difference there being, the strategy is how you're planning to do things. What's your pricing strategy? What's your distribution channels, etc. And the plan would be more, what's the actual time frame of delivery and the deliverables involved in achieving each of those strategy items. So the seasonality, the quantity of brochures you might produce and where you're going to send them. So all of that will rather come into your plan rather than your strategy. Okay, next one is number 4, and this is operational. So this is really the grit of your business. How are you going to do what you're going to do, whether it's a product or a service? So this is all the detail down to the core team involved, the workflow, the customer journey, the actual doing of it, and then getting it to a consumer. So even down to like logistics and expected shipment time and return policies. And so you don't need the policy, but like, what is the feeling about it? How does it work? And again, this is linking back to the like why you exist. So therefore, what are you giving to people as your product or service? I know that sounds probably very convoluted, but if you understand your business and you're doing the business plan, this operation part is probably the part that you would have established first with coming up with your idea, way before you have your marketing and sales strategy. Okay, and number 5. So again, going to put the coffee down. This one is financials. And the reason for putting the coffee down and being so dramatic is because this one is probably the hardest part with running a business or being in the leadership team, is really understanding the money when it comes down to things. So fixed costs versus variable costs. What's the staff required? What's the full-time headcount of staff versus freelancers? If you're able to gain more of this staff or this people, these employees, how does that mean for a delivery point of products or services? How much more can you offer to clients? Understanding your burn rate. So again, as a startup, they're always familiar with your burn rate, and then established businesses be like, oh, I don't need to know my burn rate. Well, you do. It's kind of how much cash do you have in the bank until it crashes and burns and runs out. What's your profit margin? What's your break even? What's your do you have a percentage pot for innovation, for testing? All of that is like so important. And again, financials is a whole nother part that we can cover off, but something that's, by having those financials set again as an overview sheet and part of your business plan, you can then actually give the budgets to the different departments or different people. So that one is why I'm being so dramatic, is because that's the one that is always like, people like, oh, it's an Excel, or oh, it's a numbers thing, and I'll just leave it to someone else. But actually, as leadership team and as everyone involved in the parts of the business plan, you all need to understand the financials. See, it was so dramatic that even Siri was getting involved. So that's basically the 5 things to include in your business plan, and why I'm going to reiterate again that having a business plan is so important, and something that also you shouldn't just leave and just let sit. You need to revisit it, come back to it, and keep redoing it. Anyway, thanks so much for joining your host Taelon on another episode of Eat, Engage and Thrive, and hope to see you next week.